G'day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. In today's video we're going to go over what I guess you could call are my grievances with the Mavic 3. This is an incredible drone. DJI has really done a great job in its development, both in its fit and finish, and of course just the way it flies. DJI drones are just incredible to fly. However, there are a few things that I wish DJI would have done differently, and some of these things can be addressed with a firmware update. Unfortunately, some of them are probably permanent. Now, the first thing that I wish DJI maybe would have done differently with the Mavic 3 are the combo packages that they're offering. This is a very expensive drone. $2,200 for the base package, $3,000 for the Fly More combo, and of course $5,000 for the Cine package. The unfortunate thing is at those prices, it just kind of excludes a lot of people. There are many people who just can't afford that, and of course there's some that just don't have the want to spend that kind of money on a drone, especially if you're just a drone hobbyist. But as an example, let's take the Fly More package. It comes in at $3,000 and it includes some extra batteries, a bag, some ND filters, and a few other little odds and ends. The problem with that Fly More package is not everybody wants that bag. That bag retails in the DJI store for around $300, so the price of that bag, and even the ND filters for that matter, is a big part of the price of the Fly More combo. But if you don't plan on using that bag, you're paying for it for something that could potentially sit on a shelf. So I think when drones are getting up to be that much money, they should be a little bit more flexible in the packages they offer. So a couple things they could have done here is, first of all, separate the Fly More combo like they did with the Mavic 2 Pro. Give people the option to purchase it later. There are people who probably purchased just the base kit because that's all they could afford at the time, but give them the option to purchase that Fly More kit later on. Better yet, also offer just a battery package. As mentioned, not everybody has an interest in the ND filters or that expensive bag that comes with it. If you take a look at the FPV drone, they had a Fly More kit that included just 2 batteries and the charging hub. I think that would have been a really popular kit. People could have purchased the base package and then purchased the battery kit separately. It would have been a win-win situation for everybody because it's another revenue stream for DJI, and people are still getting a little bit of a discount on purchasing additional batteries. Now that is something DJI could still potentially do, maybe with enough people asking for it. That's something maybe we could perhaps see in the new year. Now my second grievance is the controller, the stock controller that comes with the base kit and the Fly More combo. This controller is the same controller that comes with the Mini 2 or the Air 2S, and for the most part it's a great controller. I do like it, but I like it for the Mini 2 or the Air 2S. When it comes to a premium drone with a premium price tag, I would have expected a better controller. Just some subtle differences. A lot of people do like that screen in there with telemetry data. That would have been easy enough for DJI to add. Perhaps a couple customizable buttons on the bottom, and another scroll wheel for zooming in. At very least, what they could have done is match the color of the Mavic 3. A nice two-tone controller would have looked really sharp. The worst part is that this is only an OcuSync 2 controller. Now, it gets a little bit confusing on the DJI website. If you go to the specs of the controller, it states that this is fully capable of O3. It'll switch back and forth between OcuSync 2 or OcuSync 3 or OcuSync 3 Plus depending on what drone it connects to. However, if you do go to the user manual, I believe it's page 40, it clearly states that this is an OcuSync 2 controller. So I'm not 100% sure about that. DJI maybe should have made that a little bit clearer. If this is indeed only OcuSync 2, then that's even worse. Why are they selling their premium drone where they're advertising O3 Plus, but only including an OcuSync 2 controller? Now with that said, the range and transmission works quite well. I haven't done any kind of comparisons to the RC Pro that comes with the Cine package, whether you get better distance or not. But at the end of the day, they shouldn't have cheaped out with the controller. After all, they're including a $300 bag. I think people would have preferred to have a better controller. Now, my next grievance is the new advanced return to home that they introduced with the Mavic 3. Now, in theory, it's a great idea. What it basically does is when it returns to home, either in failsafe, low battery, or if you've manually initiated it, instead of it traditionally going up to the predetermined height, coming straight across and straight down, it's going to find the best route home. So if you're only flying at 50 meters, it's going to come home at that 50 meters, and it will actually descend at the same time. All along the way, of course, it's going to be avoiding obstacles. The problem I have with that is not every environment you're in is going to be suitable for that. Now, according to the manual, that advanced return to home will only work when the environment is suitable. That means it's bright enough and the obstacle avoidance sensors can work. If you're flying in the evening, at nighttime, or it's a really dark day, and it doesn't think that those sensors are capable of working correctly, it's going to revert back to the smart return to home. The problem I have with that is especially here in Canada this time of year and many parts in the US. When there's no foliage on the trees, that obstacle avoidance doesn't quite pick up some of those really thin branches. Of course, then you have to factor in hydro wires, and I've already experienced it myself a few times when it's coming in. It's getting pretty low and close to trees, and I really just don't trust it. And we've already seen some people crash their Mavic 3 because it hit tree branches, those little ghost branches. So what I would like to see DJI do is just have a very clear option within the settings where we can disable advanced return to home and just use the traditional smart return to home. According to the manual, the only thing you can do during an advanced return to home is you can cancel it altogether, or you can use the stick and adjust the angle of the drone so you can adjust the speed as it's coming back to you. But as far as I can tell, I haven't seen anywhere that you can disable that altogether. So hopefully maybe we'll get that in a future firmware update. Now my fourth grievance with the Mavic 3 is I would like to have seen more premium features. Again, this is a premium drone, a premium price tag, and really they didn't introduce anything new that's not already available. Of course we have that nice new camera, but I mean like intelligent flight modes, tap to fly, waypoints, something like that. Every year when DJI introduces a new drone, we always seem to get some new feature. You know, they introduce quick shots, APAS, master shots with the Air 2S, but DJI hasn't really announced anything new. All the standard features that we already have on the Air 2S, they're not available yet, and they're coming in a January firmware update, but they never really mentioned anything new. But I think for the price of this drone, and because it's their new flagship, they should have introduced something new, something interesting, some new intelligent flight mode. I would really like to see tap to fly, or some form of cruise control other than hyperlapse, and definitely I would love to see them add waypoints. So again, time will tell to see what happens. DJI tends to add some of these new features down the road. Perhaps there's stuff they haven't advertised yet that we will see in a firmware update sometime in the near future. Now my fifth grievance is when filming in log mode, I'd like to see the option to kind of get a real-time colored preview of what you're filming. Right now when you switch over to D-Log, it's going to really desaturate the feed. It gets really hard to tell if the exposure is correct, and not to mention it makes it difficult to see fine detail. Like if you're flying around trees with thin branches, some of those fine details kind of get washed away. With the Air 2S, we have the ability to toggle on a preview, so we're going to kind of get a preview of what it's going to look like when it's graded. So hopefully they will add that to the Mavic 3. I'm pretty sure they will. It was added to the Air 2S. It wasn't there on launch, but it was something that they added. Now the next thing I would like to see them add for the Mavic 3 is the ability to move the drone around when returning to home. Now it's just a little thing, and we've seen them add that capability for the DJI Mini 2, and it's actually a handy feature because when you're doing a return to home, if you're a kilometer away, you can spin the drone around, you can move the camera up and down, and that allows you to get some pretty dynamic looking shots. That feature is not available on the Air 2S just due to the fact that the obstacle avoidance on the front, the drone needs to fly frontwards in order to avoid obstacles. The Mini 2, there's no obstacle avoidance, so it doesn't matter which direction it's flying in. But with the Mavic 3 here, we have obstacle avoidance all the way around it, so in theory it should be able to still perform that kind of maneuver while it's flying home and avoid obstacles. I think that would be a nice feature for them to include. Now the next thing that I would like to see them change, and I'm pretty sure we will get some more flexibility of this in future firmware, is when using that half-inch sensor, that hybrid zoom camera, I'd like to see more options available. Right now you can't go into the Pro camera mode settings. You're very limited to frame rates and resolutions. Now, although that camera is something I'm not too terribly interested in, and it's probably not something I'm going to use a lot, it still would be nice to have that flexibility. When you're in the fixed 7x zoom, it still actually has a pretty decent quality, so being able to adjust some of the camera settings to what you want would be a definite bonus. Now, this next grievance is more to do with the Cine version. The Cine version has that built-in 1TB SSD. I would have liked to have seen that removable. Now that's probably one of the reasons I didn't buy the Cine version, is just because it did have a built-in SSD. Those ProRes files are massive, and you can fill up that 1TB in no time at all. If you're out capturing content for business or even pleasure, and you fill up that 1TB SSD, basically you're done filming for the day. Unless, of course, you want to drag a laptop around with you. But again, laptops tend to have small SSD drives in them, so you're still limited to how much data you can transfer over to a laptop. You'd then have to bring another portable hard drive to transfer everything over. So to me, it's just a little inconvenient. Now, another thing that I have noticed with the Mavic 3, it has a very aggressive obstacle avoidance. And what I mean by that is if you're hovering the drone close to you and you go to land, or you're just moving the drone, it really jumps around. It twitches a lot, and I'm pretty sure that's all to do with the obstacle avoidance. And sometimes it can be pretty aggressive the way it does it. The drone will spin around, move around. The obstacle avoidance needs some fine tuning. Now, one thing you do have to watch for too with the new obstacle avoidance is because they are now fisheye, it's easy to get fingerprints and different things on them, and that can affect you when you're out flying up in the air. I've had warnings when I'm 300 feet in the air and I'm not around anything that it's picking up obstacles, and when you bring it into land, you can see there's a big fingerprint smudge on it. So that is one thing you do have to be aware of as well. And lastly, again, just a small thing, but I would like to see very soon more options for the RC Pro. Right now it's only compatible with the Mavic 3, but I'm a person who sometimes will go out with a couple drones, the Mini 2, the Air 2S, so it'd be nice to be able to just bring one controller with me. I'm confident we're going to see that compatibility added with a firmware update, hopefully sooner than later, but definitely that is something that I wish they had done on launch day. Well folks, those are currently my grievances with the Mavic 3. Of course, I'm still flying it and testing it out, learning all the little nuances of it. Keep an eye out for my full review. Hopefully that should be uploaded sometime next week. I didn't want to rush it out. I wanted to spend a good amount of time with it. I want to thank you for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and got some value out of it. It's always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.